concept of beauty is simple in nature. The psyche, however, often strives to understand the heart of beauty's true meaning. I believe it is within the stories of our lives that we learn, that we discover beauty's true definition with a clarity that stays us, fortifies us, when culture infers or overtly communicates that we do not fit within the societal norms of what is deemed beauty.
Well, to me, beauty is, when I was younger, was an outward appearance, for sure. And there wasn't any really things that I liked about myself, so when I looked at people with straight hair, I liked straight hair. People that had blue eyes, it was usually the opposite of me. And I just thought, you know, their figure was perfect. They wore the right clothes. When I was raised, we were fairly poor, and we shopped at Salvation Army. So a lot of the clothes were hand-me-downs, and I never felt comfortable in what I wore or how I looked. So for a long time, I had a very poor self-image of myself.
Growing up being biracial, being both Korean and being white, it was difficult because neither side really saw me as beautiful. And you know, I actually went to a Korean church, and I was always, I mean, they would literally tell me, like, you're too big, like, and with the kids, like Christmas things and stuff like that, the older I got, the less I was able to participate, because they would say, you're not little enough, and I'm like, I'm only 8 years old, like, but because I was half white, I was bigger than the other full Korean kids. And even though it seems tangential, I think that those things started to erode my perception of my own beauty, and I felt different, and I felt like I wasn't as good as the kids that were full Korean because I was big. And on the other side too, you know, with my friends who were white, I definitely looked different. I had different hair, I had different eyes, you know.
When you're young like that, it is very aesthetic and what the world perceives, and it's this skinny Barbie doll, nails done, perfectly coiffed thing. And life just didn't like that. A teenager, it really was. I guess what sticks to my head, my dad told, I ran to the bathroom, you know, somebody was coming, I ran to the bathroom, oh, you know, and my dad comes, walks to the door and says, you know, you're really going to have to get over that. And it was like, okay.
First time, I think I was 11 or 12, I started roaming the makeup aisles. I didn't realize that there was an art aisle for my face. And then, you know, of course, becoming a teen and starting to have breakouts and not fitting in quite well. I was always on the thicker side. My worth was literally built in my teens to where my worth was built into, am I worthy of even being here if I didn't look the part, you know. And that really derailed me on a lot of fronts.
As a young child, I was probably in line with what our culture values as beautiful. A figure that's appealing, a face that's lovely, makeup that's impeccable, hair that looks nice. I think the reason, you know, I grew up like that, is there were a lot of beautiful people around me. And also, my father was a professional football player, so in a way that had become kind of a glamorous profession. In my circles, there was notoriety. There were always people that were vying for his attention and wanting to visit with him, get his opinions, find out about his history. As a young child, I used to go watch him at speaking engagements, you know, and saw the appeal to the crowd and that kind of thing. So I kind of got caught up, I think, in thinking that what made you beautiful was notoriety. I tried out for Gimbel's Teen Board, and they would get girls from high school, and you'd get together and you'd model on the weekends, and then they had fashion shows and stuff. I was a shy girl, never really had the confidence that the in crowd seemed to have in high school, but I went ahead and did it. It was like, wow, now it's trying to learn not only to gather what's beautiful, but how do I project being beautiful, because now I'm a model. Although, as a result of that, there was a sailor that followed me into the parking garage when I was leaving, and that scared me. So I started rethinking, is it really fun to be that kind of beautiful? You know, what am I projecting type things.
When I was a little girl, I remember sitting on my dad's chest. He told me that I was not to allow anyone to tell me that my freckles were anything but beautiful. He assured me that they are beautiful, and throughout most of my life I've been pretty at ease with my freckly skin. Now, I had other voices speaking into my life that communicated a lot of other things, very different things. A very important voice from my childhood communicated that I had big ears, that I had buck teeth, that I had chicken legs. When I got a little bit older, I was told I was flat-chested. I was also told that my temperament was very much like my dad's, and that he was definitely not a good individual. And those things stuck with me, and I tripped and stumbled over those for many years. It wasn't until I was in my 30s that I began to feel that I had some sense of beauty, and so I made some errors in judgment based on that information. It made me feel very awkward, and it made me feel inadequate, and that I wasn't enough, and that I certainly didn't fit into the social norms or into my family of beautiful people.
And we have a saying in Spanish that is that there's no ugly women, it's just not well kept, which that kind of goes with the concept of, oh, maybe she's not really bad looking, it's just that she doesn't put herself together. In my culture, it has been put in us, especially females. You have to be well kept, you have to dress a certain way, you have to look a certain way. Moving here to the United States, and especially living in New York before I came to Alaska, so I have 3 different worlds pretty much, because Alaska, I feel like it's very, people are like more relaxed with what they wear here. Guatemala, for example, I do feel like people were like going to school with just females. I was able to see like the competition that was between one another, and how you had to look and be able to keep yourself a certain way. When I moved to New York was even worse, because I feel like it's a very competitive world over there, and it's like a lot about fashion. I think definitely culture has a lot to do with how you perceive others and how do you keep yourself, I would say.
What the troopers said, I had clipped a trophy-sized moose, and it flew into my windshield, flew off my windshield, and I went about 3/10 mile down the road, went off the road, uprooted 2 trees, and the 3rd tree stopped me. The trees that I'd uprooted were covering my car. Next thing I remember was being in the hospital. I had shredded my face apart. Went down my neck. I was sticking my tongue through here. My whole upper lip was shredded apart. Up here was shredded apart. This was like this huge gaping hole in my neck. I shredded my arm up pretty bad. And I had bone protruding out of my ankle. I had 3 different spots in my brain that was bruised and bleeding. It affected my logic, my communication, and my short-term memory. I had chipped teeth in my mouth. I remember my mother bathing me at 24 years old. It's a very humbling experience. In the summer, this up here is more pronounced because the rest of my face gets tanned and this above my lip stays white. People tell me all the time I have stuff on my upper lip. I'm like, no, it's just scars. I was really self-conscious about it for years. They were really red and pronounced for a long time, and I was very self-conscious of them. I would voice my self-consciousness to people, and like, why? It just adds character. It gives you a story to tell.
When I was a little girl, my mom and dad pastored a church. I was probably around 2 or 3 years old, and Mom said to me, I don't remember this, but Mom told me this story. She said that people would come up to me and say, "Oh, she is so beautiful." And Mom said, I know. And so that changed the course of what beauty really was. Mom said, "Sherry, beauty is what beauty does inside. So what comes in from the inside is going to be, if you're beautiful or not." That was instilled in me since I was a little girl, that, you have to act beautiful if you want to be truly beautiful.
Like growing up, none of us really struggled with like looking in the mirror and being like, oh, I hate this about me, I hate this about me. Like, I feel like all of us had, like, I was like, oh, this is who I am, and I like who I am, kind of thing.
Yeah, we had a very, like...
positive home life, so that
helped
because I never, like, I'd be like, oh, I should lose weight, but I think that was my mom's struggle, too, so I was like, yeah, we should lose weight together. But even still, like, talking to my mom, she was like, I always felt like I looked good when I looked at myself. I'm like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, like no self.
So it wasn't,
no self-hatred,
yeah, and
like,
that, I don't know, like, that was just from the beginning of growing up too. Your picture of, or your definition, like you said, of what beauty is, definitely changes as you grow, but from the physical aspect, none of us really, like, struggled with that of, I'm ugly. Because we looked really good.
I believe that, my upbringing had a lot to do with how I perceived myself, and had total encouragement by my mom and dad, to be who I wanted to be. And so I grew up believing that I was okay. And I never thought of myself as being beautiful, but it didn't matter. It didn't matter to me. I thought of myself as being cute. And I didn't have any problems, attracting boyfriends or anything like that. And I didn't care. I just thought of myself as being cute and having fun. That was my life goal. I was having fun.
Perception is influenced and formed in the early stages. Some perceptions even develop prior to recall. Studies indicate the brain processes information in a linear sequence up through to the age of 11, when abstract thought begins to conceptualize. The process of abstract thought develops between the ages of 11 up through 16, and the brain reaches its full development at the age of 25. Neurological and cognitive scientists study the effects of how perceptions equate to choices and the resulting outcomes. They conclude that how information is presented is imperative, for this determines how information is perceived, processed, and exhibited over the course of a lifetime.
We grew up with Playboy magazines around the house, kind of that whole locker room mentality. And that was defining, this is what makes you beautiful and appealing. Sexy, curvy, no boundaries. So subtly, that all speaks to you. And I didn't have healthy boundaries. I didn't have a healthy sense of self. I didn't know, if somebody said they loved me, I had crooked thinking and felt like I owed them something. I couldn't hurt them, or I should, not betray a trust or whatever. I came to myself and I just said, I have to find out who I am from the inside. Ask the right questions. Look for a healthier place to find the answers.
Even some of the struggles that I went through when I was young. I was raised with 4 brothers. When you're raised around brothers and they have a lot of freedom and they do things outdoors, that I really enjoyed, like outside work, mowing the lawn, those kind of things really captured my attention. I just had such an enjoyment. So with that, I grew to think that I wish I was a guy. Rejecting my gender for a season was detrimental to me. When I realized, what's wrong with being a woman? I saw women that could do all sorts of things, but yet they were still very proud of being a woman.
You know, I was a pastor's daughter, but I was always in the arts. Even at a very young age, I was singing on television, I was singing for pageants, I sang for Disney, I danced for Disney. They wanted to hire me full-time to do their disco Mickey Mouse. My mom and dad were incredible parents, but they were very watchful and careful. That's been instilled in me since I was a little girl. You know, Sherry, you know, what's on the inside and how you act will be what decides if you're beautiful or not.
People think that if you look a certain way, you have things easier in life. You know, I've had people tell me, oh, well, you don't have to worry about that because you're pretty. And where at times in my life where I have not felt, you know, like I'm beautiful or anything like that, where I've maybe felt at my lowest.
I went through a divorce, and after my divorce, I was like the fittest I had ever been. I was eating extremely healthy, like my skin looked really good, and as physical, to me, I was the best I had ever been. But internally, I was a mess. I was a wreck. I was like, it was really just the only thing that I had control over. After I got divorced, that was such a hard thing for me because I had 2 kids, stretch marks. Who's gonna want me? Who's gonna want, like in a sense, like a washed up mom who's got stretch marks all over her, you know?
I feel disgusting. You're not, I know for a fact, my sisters won't let me finish that sentence. They'll say, you look fine, stop negative self-talk. I'm like, why then do we feel so comfortable literally abusing ourselves this way? Who said that? Whose voice are you listening to?
I had 3 kids, so even having kids, you know, I'm like, I have so many stretch marks, and I remember him coming, like, I was looking in the mirror, and he came, and he, like, grabbed my stretch marks, and he was like, this is so beautiful to me, and I was just like, I mean, it was, like, so vulnerable, but he was speaking like, this isn't what beauty is to me. Like, I still think of you. Everything about you is so beautiful. And
whenever I'd get uncomfortable or self-conscious about my scarring, you know, I'd start thinking about what other people said, you know, and it is a story. It's a testimony. I shouldn't be alive. I'm very blessed to be here. When people ask about my scars, I proudly tell them what I overcame. You know, I should be disabled right now, and I'm not. I'm not self-conscious about them anymore. And I laugh when people ask me about my white spot above my lip when I share, you know, what happened to me and what I've overcame and what I've accomplished in my life. It's a testimony to other people. You know, there's been times in my life where I didn't want to go on and I felt like I didn't have the strength to go on, but I did. I should have been dead when I was born. I should have been dead in 2004. I've been T-boned a couple times since and walked away from both situations. Yeah, I'm not okay physically. I'm in chronic pain, but I'm still walking every day and I'm able to function not being on anything.
I've heard it often quipped, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So if we experience varying communications from culture, family units, friends, classmates, colleagues, and even strangers who attempt to define our personal beauty, how do we navigate the confusion? How do we determine who to believe? How do we discern what is truth? Is there a measuring rod for beauty that we can hold up judgments to that will quell uncertainties and help us to clearly see, to clearly define our own unique beauty?
That it isn't all these externals. What makes you beautiful is finding out what you're destined for, why you're gifted the way you're gifted, who you really are, where you resonate, how you can be a person that's filled with joy, filled with purpose, filled with energy, because you're connected to to what your life is really supposed to be all about.
There's this thing that you're trying to get to that doesn't really exist. I mean, that's the beauty of my relationship with Christ, is like I don't have to get to that thing. I have that thing with my relationship with Christ. But I think that when you go through enough experiences where you fail to attain this unattainable beauty that you're trying to get to, you start to get more and more comfortable with, okay, this is me, and I'm okay with that, because this other thing that society has told me that I need to get to, it doesn't even really exist.
My worth is in who I am, first of all. You're a daughter of God. When you realize God created you literally, you start getting this sense of awe, like, wow, like, God thinks I'm so beautiful. And it's intricately interwoven, the physical aspects with who you are to your character, your soul, your heart. And it shines. If your heart shines, your whole body shines.
Like we were taught too, is like every thought captive or every negative thing. So anything negative that comes in, you're like, no, I'm not gonna, like, okay, I'm ugly. And then as like a young generation, like, some girl says you're ugly on social media, and they're like, oh my gosh, that is so, and then it goes in your, your brain, and then you root on it, you think about it. And then, so when that comes in, you're like, no, I'm not ugly. I'm not ugly, I'm a child of God. God loves me, and just fight that back. I'm not even gonna plant that seed in my mind, in my spirit, because it will ruin you.
Love yourself because God loves you, and the beauty that's within you will shine without.
I just know that I don't have chicken legs. If I did, I can still walk around on them and get to where I need to go, and I can be creative on my little chicken legs, and I can be productive, and I can love and I can care, whether I've got a flat as a board chest, whether I'm freckled, buck teeth, big-eared, stringy hair. Life is good, even if I am awkward and defined in a funky sort of manner by my peers and those around me. It's okay. It's okay if I'm not a Victoria's Secret model. Not everybody's going to be boobalicious. I mean, the soul of who I am, that's what I need to caretake. That's what I need to develop. And that's what needs to shine forth as beautiful. So as my face begins to move into the latter season of life, I really, that's very important to me, that I caretake my soul, that I caretake my spirit and make those shine and make them beautiful and productive and offering to others hope and life and encouragement.
The closest circle of friends that I have at this time in my life are very similar like me. They don't judge me for how I look, and it's the same way with me towards them. I feel like they do care more about the inside, the inner beauty, than the outer beauty, for sure.
Who's the most beautiful? Well, the most beautiful is Jesus. And when you know that you are created in His image and His likeness, you're beautiful too. Whether you have wild hair like I have had, straight hair, whatever color of skin you have, whatever size you are, you're beautiful in His eyes. The truth is that I'm loved, that I'm valuable, that I matter,